Anyway, so we're going to be looking at 5 Disney movies this month. We have 5 Sundays in the month of July, so we're going to have 5 movie opportunities to look at. So we're going to start today with Brave, and my talk is, what would you do if you were brave? Just like the song asks, what would you do if you were brave? Now, in the spirit of coming attractions, I'll just tell you what the other 4 will be. How about that? So you can be prepared. Because I am going to give you a spoiler alert. I'm telling the whole story in every movie. So if you haven't seen them, you might want to see them. Okay, just so you know. Just so you know. So the first one today, again, is Brave. Next week, we're going to do Ratatouille. And then we're going to do Monsters, Inc. And then Lion King. And we'll wrap up the month with Peter Pan. Okay, so that's your entertainment for the month of July, looking for that spiritual wisdom. So let's start with Brave. It's set in ancient Scotland in the time of clansmen and royalty, fairies and monsters. And it is, if you've not seen it, I do recommend it. The animation in this show, who's seen it? Okay, a few of you, this side of the room has seen it, this side's not seen it. I love it. I love that stuff. But the animation in it is amazing. It's a Pixar collaboration with Disney. So you've got that beautiful story, wonderful characters, and amazing animation. I've watched it a couple of times, and it's just fantastic. So I do recommend it. And it's a great story for children of all ages. Children of all ages. So the movie features Merida. And she is an aspiring archer, and she is the firstborn and rather impetuous daughter of royalty. And it starts out with her being on a picnic with her family. She's a very young child. And it's her birthday. And her dad is there with her and her mom, and they're having this lovely adventure. And we meet all of the characters, the main characters in the show, in this opening scene. So it's Merida, it's her mom and dad, the king and the queen, and it is the will-o'-the-wisp. The will-o'-the-wisp is, it's considered scientifically to be swamp gas. And when you get close to it, it efflorescence, it makes light. And when you get close to it, because your air is moving, your body's moving in the air, it dissipates. So it's like magic for many, many, many centuries. And then science starts talking about how it really works. But in this movie, they're fairies. They're like fairies. And then we also meet Mardu, the bear. So he's another main character. So Merida is given her own bow and arrows for her birthday by her dad. And she's shooting arrows, and she misses the target, and she has to go into the forest, and that's where she meets, for the first time, the will-o'-the-wisps. And they lead her on a little adventure, and she's all excited with her mom, and she tells her mom about it, and she's like, your father doesn't believe in magic, and Merida says he should, because it's true. And as they're getting ready to leave the picnic, who shows up but Mardu, the ginormous bear? And he comes and he starts attacking them. And Mom and Merida escape, and Dad fights the bear. And he's fighting the bear, and he runs the bear off. But in the meantime, he loses part of his leg to the bear. So he is now forever known as the Bear King, because he's got this relationship with this bear that attacked him and took part of his foot away. So he's the Bear King. That's important. So we move through a few scenes with Merida growing up and being groomed to be the queen, because she is, after all, a princess. And her mom is teaching her book learning and how to run the kingdom and home economics and all of those queenly things she needs to know. And Dad is teaching her swordsmanship and how to shoot her bow and arrow. Sort of, but not really, behind Mom's back. And of course, Merida is leaning more into that training than that boring girl stuff. A little bit of a tomboy. And she loves the bow and arrow, and she's become very, very proficient at using it. And now Mom has decided it is time for a husband for Merida. And she's gathered all the clansmen leaders' sons to come forward. And they're going to have a good old-fashioned competition in the games for the princess's hand in marriage. Merida is furious. Now, why do you suppose she'd be mad? Why do you suppose she'd be mad? Here's this young woman who knows she's a princess. Her destiny is to be queen, right? She knows this. She's being groomed for it. And yet, when it's here in her face and Mom goes, it's time, she resists. She resists that destiny that she's being groomed for. And she says, no, this is not what I want. In the opening scenes of the movie, she has a wonderful quote in this dreamy voice where she says, destiny is the one thing we all search for or fight against, fight to change. Some never find it. Some are led. Some are led. Ernest Holmes, the author of The Science of Mind and the founder of this teaching, actually defines destiny in The Science of Mind. I love our textbook because anytime you pick one particular word and look it up in the glossary or in the concordance, concordance, you'll find either no reference or then you find some that have these tremendous amounts of references to them that I never realized, and destiny is one of those. He has an awful lot to say about destiny, and he defines it as the result of what we think. Destiny is the result of what we think. Effect, which has been decreed according to perfect law. He calls destiny cause and effect. And then the dictionary says the power or agency that determines the course of events. So it kind of goes along with that, doesn't it? It kind of goes along with that. So is, in fact, our destiny within our control? Is our destiny, do you believe that your destiny is in your control? Is it something that we choose? Is it something that we search for? Or is it something like Merida said, and fight against? Resist. Is it truly cause and effect? Let's see. So Merida watches these 3 clansmen come to do the competition, and she gets to choose, as the princess whose hand they're after, what the game will be, and of course she chooses archery. And the first one gets up, and he barely hits the target. The second one gets up, and he hits the target, but he misses the bullseye. And this is such a classic scene. He starts screaming and hollering, he takes his bow and he beats it on the ground, and then he throws it. Has anybody seen those golf movies where they show the golfers doing that? I think this is a scene from Tin Cup, if I remember, because somebody way back in the back goes, "Got it!" Isn't that from Tin Cup? Anyway, I thought it was quite funny that they showed that. Disney's just wonderful at doing those things. So he's all angry and everything. And then the next one, who is probably the least qualified, definitely the least attractive. And he gets up to shoot, and he can't even keep the arrow in the bow. All right? He's really struggling with it. And the king hollers at him, "Get on with it!" and scares him, and he just lets go. And he hits the bullseye. And the king looks over at the queen and he goes, "Guess who's coming to dinner?" And he turns to Merida, and she's gone. She's gone. And the next thing you know, she's out on the field. And she pulls her hood back and she says, "I, Merida, firstborn of this kingdom, will compete for my own hand in marriage." And her mother now is furious. And Merida gets up and she shoots the first target and she hits it in the bullseye. She shoots the second target, she hits it in the bullseye. Mom is now off the throne, out in her face. Now, moms, you've had this conversation, right? If you do that one more time, right? Yeah, one more time. If you let loose one, do not let loose one more arrow. She completely ignores her, keeps her focus, lets it go, and in slow motion, it splits the arrow of the other guy. Goes right in the middle of his arrow, through the bullseye, through the target. She's the champion. Oh, then mayhem breaks out. You got those crazy Scots, right, in kilts, and they're fighting, they're embarrassed, they're angry, mayhem. Well, Mom Queen takes Merida back up to her room, and ladies, we've probably had this conversation with our mother at some point, or If you're a mom, you may have had the conversation with your daughter. I've had just about enough of this tomfoolery. I'm the mom. I get to make the rules. This is how it's going to be. So she's giving her this lecture, and Merida is, it's so unfair. Life is so unfair. I don't want to be treated this way. And she picks up her sword, and she's slashing her sword around the room in frustration. But no, it's not the way I want to be. And so she looks at her mom, and this is the part in those conversations where we get angry. And we say and we do things out of emotion that we may not say and do in a more sane moment. And she takes her sword and she says, I will not be you. I will be me. And she cuts and slashes the family portrait tapestry. And she cuts it where mom is on one side, and she and dad and the brothers are on the other side. So she cuts it. She cuts it. Well, mom is shocked. She's shocked. Mom reacts. She grabs her bow. She throws it in the fire. Merida's furious again. A lot of anger in this. She leaves the castle, runs away, and mom realizes what she's done and falls to her knees and pulls the bow back out of the fire. So Merida is off in the woods now, and she gets out there, and who shows up but the will-o'-the-wisps? And they're leading her once again through the forest. And they lead her up to a cottage, and it turns out it's a witch's cottage. And in the witch's cottage is a witch, and Merida asks her for a spell. I want to change my mother. Anybody ever felt that way? I want to change my mother, my father, my husband, my wife, my boss, my friends. When I was growing up, if I'd have had a spell, I would have changed my parents. They did not understand me. They didn't know how life worked. Oh my gosh. Just like every 16-year-old, right? Yeah, sure. I'm not the only one, right? Okay. But we see this in our children and our boss. We want to change our boss. We want to change our children. You know, the boss cubby holes us and doesn't see our magnificence. Or we want to change a relationship partner. You know, if they just think like I do. If they just think like I do, my life would be wonderful. Anybody ever had that thought? Okay, well, once in a while. So the witch denies being a witch, and she says that she's had too many unsatisfied customers. That should have been a clue. She's a little absent-minded, but she puts a spell in a cake and she gives it to Merida. Merida takes it back, does a peace offering for her mom. A little tea and cake. Mom takes a bite, realizes it's not really a tasty cake. So she is leaving the room with Merida to kind of repair the damage that they've done with all the Klansmen, and Mom starts to feel bad. So Merida takes her up to the room. Mom continues to feel bad, falls off the bed, and when she gets up, she's a bear. She's in the castle, in the bedroom of the king. And the king doesn't like bears. So they're realizing this whole adventure, and the whole time that Mom is transforming, Merida keeps going, how you feel, Mom? How you feel about that betrothal? Mom, have you changed your mind about the betrothal and the wedding? Mom! She's not worried about what's happening to Mom. She's worried about, do I still have to get married? Do I still have to get married? Interesting dynamic. So they have quite an adventure getting Mom out of the castle without Dad finding them and killing Mom. Sometimes our perceived enemies are not our enemies at all. Not our enemies at all. So now Mom's not quite a full bear yet. She's still Mom on the inside, but she's sort of transforming, but she looks like a bear. So now they're in the woods. Well, the queen doesn't know how to take care of herself. So Merida is now taking care of Mom and showing her the ropes in the forest and how to feed and what to eat and what not to eat. So there's a role reversal, and they get to know each other. You sense a bonding that they didn't have in the castle when they were in that resistance of Mom trying to control her and make her mold into this queen person. So there's that softening in the two of them as they change roles. And I think some of us have probably experienced that with our parents. when our roles start to shift and reverse. When our roles start to shift and reverse in that. So they decide after an overnight in the forest that they really need to go back and see the witch. Enough of this. We need to reverse this spell. So they go back to the cottage. The witch is gone. Extended vacation. She won't be back for a year. But she left a note because she remembered she had forgotten something in the spell. So she leaves a little note a little video actually, for Merida. And she says, by the second sunrise, your spell will be permanent unless you remember these words. Fate be changed, look inside. Mend the bonds torn by pride. Mend the bonds torn by pride. Now that's good advice, isn't it? Not only for Merida and her situation and what she's done, but for all of us. Do we have any relationships or situations in our life where we're dragging that baggage of unforgiveness? Where we're dragging that baggage of unforgiveness? Are there any grudges that we're carrying? Anything in our life that needs to be healed? Forgiveness is a very important and powerful spiritual practice for us. And it will change our life. We hear stories about it all the time of physical, emotional, mental healings that occur when people do their forgiveness work. And one that comes to mind is Wayne Dyer. And he had such a difficult childhood with his father. And I don't recall if he even knew his father. But he did his forgiveness work at his father's gravestone. Because his father had passed by the time he was willing to do the work. So there's a lot of powerful transformation that we can gift ourselves with when we do our forgiveness work. I found a little study on the Mayo Clinic website about the benefits of forgiveness. And I love when science and spirituality come together and confirm each other. So I'll give you this information. It says letting go of grudges and bitterness can make way for happiness, health, and peace. We could all have more of that, right? Forgiveness can lead to healthier relationships, greater spiritual and psychological well-being, less anxiety, stress, and hostility, lower blood pressure, fewer symptoms of depression, stronger immune system, improved heart health. That makes sense. Higher self-esteem. So those are wonderful benefits for us. For this idea of, like I used to say in Texas, of mending fences. Mending fences. So now we're at the stage where the ginormous bear was also a victim of the witch's absent-mindedness. See, he was a king, or a prince, and he went to the witch and said, I want the strength of 10 men, because he wanted to defeat his 3 brothers and control the entire kingdom. And he got the strength of 10 men, and he controlled the kingdom by killing off everybody because he became the bear, and he destroyed the kingdom. And that was a legend that Merida had always heard. So finally she understands that that reckless slash of her sword on the family tapestry was the bond that was torn by pride that she needed to repair. So she says, Mom, we got to go back to the castle. Mom's like, not a good idea. I'm a bear, not a good idea. But she needed her mom's help, so they broke back into the castle and were repairing the tapestry. And Dad is the bear king. He smelt the bear, and they went on a hunt, and he caught her in the bedroom with Merida. So he was very scared, right? He thought this bear was going to eat Merida and had already eaten his wife because he found her torn dress on the floor that she had expanded out of as the bear. So he just knew she was gone and wasn't going to let Merida go too. So the hunt is on, the chase is on. Mom escapes the castle as the bear, but the dogs and the horses and the clansmen, everybody's after her. And poor little Merida was locked in her room in a panic. How do I save Mom? So her brothers help her get out. She goes after him with the tapestry, and they end up in this place that's much like Stonehenge. It's much like a Stonehenge glen with the tall rocks in the circle, if you know what that is. And when Merida gets there, they have actually captured Mom. She's roped down to the ground, and Dad is approaching with the fatal blow. And Merida intervenes. She jumps in front of Mom and her dad and says, stop. She's shooting arrows at her dad. She takes a clansman's sword. She's sword fighting her dad to save her mom. And guess who shows up at the party? Mardu, the ginormous bear. And so now he's attacking Dad again. And Dad's like, I'm going to take you on this time. I'll take you out barehanded. Because his sword's gone, because Merida got rid of it for him. So the bear throws Dad. Merida gets the sword, and she's going after the bear. And the bear gets her down on the ground, and he's about to eat her. And Mom's had enough. She breaks her bounds of the ropes. She gets up, and she saves Merida. And then she fights the bear. So they're going at it. And this bear's much bigger than she is, but it's a mama, right, protecting her young. So he throws her up against one of the pillars, and she notices that it rocks a little bit. And then she bumps up against it a couple of times, and then she gets him somehow against it, and she's banging him against it enough that it begins to slip. And he throws her out of the way, and then the pillar falls on him, and kills Mardu, the ginormous bear. And immediately we see a beautiful ghostly figure of the prince come up out of the stone. And the look on his face is such gratitude that you just feel his joy and his gratitude at being released from that confining spell of living life as a bear, as living life in that condition. There's just such a state of grace and honor for those that set him free. It's really a beautiful scene. And then almost instantaneously, he turns into a will-o'-the-wisp and flies off. So I would ask, have you ever turned anyone into a bear in your imagination? A villain projected something on someone or a situation, made them that bear in your life. We hear studies of teachers who are told that certain children are troublesome, not able to learn, or these are the good ones, and see how they're treated in class, and the children live up to the expectation of the teacher, whereas it may or may not be true about them. But in these experiments they've done, there's research that shows this. So people begin to live up to our expectations, like the king was treating Mom like she was a bear because she looked like a bear, even though inside she was still Mom. We can do that, can't we, through our judgments, through our assumptions? You know, we can do it with our friends, our family, our coworkers, our spouse. We have a tendency to put them in a certain light, and that's how we know them. That's how we always see them. We do it in religions. Islamophobia. I have to say I really don't like that word. I don't like what it stands for. But it's become prominent in our media today. And we're classifying a whole group as something that the whole group obviously is not. Many of us in this room may have a certain villainous relationship with Catholicism or Christianity. We may have put some projections there. How about our sacred texts? The Bible, the Quran, the Book of Mormon. We may have made those villains in our life. We have that capability in our imagination to do that and to project that out. And like Merida, we begin to resist what is and what's occurring at home or in the workplace because of these projections. We begin to resist it. And then our choices can keep us in separation. That ripped tapestry is such a beautiful, powerful example of separation. Separating Mom from the family. I'm not going to be like you. And the slash is that physical representation of separation. And while we know we can never be separate from our source, we can never be separate from God. God is within us and a part of us. We are a part of Spirit. We can certainly choose to feel separate. We can choose to live separate. We can make choices that separate us. We can block it. So fate be changed, look inside, mend the bonds. torn by pride. Time to become bridge builders and not bridge burners, right? Bridge builders, not bridge burners. So Merida did repair the tapestry, and she brought it into the glen. And once Mardu departed as the will-o'-the-wisp, she placed it over her mom, crying, "Please, Mom, return, return," because Mom's still a bear, even though the tapestry is put back together and on the bear. And she's just, her heart is breaking. You know, I want my mom back. I'm so sorry. And the sun is beginning to rise. And it's a beautiful video, the way they portray the sun rising over Stonehenge and illuminating each of the pillars. And so Mom is the bear. Mom is the bear. Mom is the bear until Mom's not the bear anymore. Mom is Mom. Mom is Mom. And the first thing Merida says is she looks at her and she goes, "You've changed." And Mom says, "We both have. We both have." So once again, we have a happy ending to our story, to our fairy tale. And it's a lovely story about a brave young girl who makes a reckless decision and then admits her mistake and works to fix it. So our first position would be bravery rather than recklessness. But if our bravery turns into recklessness and we make a decision that creates a problem, own it. Yep, I did it. Now let's fix it. Be part of the solution. Be part of the solution. And so many times we try to, especially I'm experiencing, I don't know if you are, in my business world, that so many are trying to offload any responsibility. And it makes doing business challenging when we don't stand in our own professionalism and say, yes, this is what I do and this is how I'll do it. Just an observation. So we've talked about destiny. What is bravery? We haven't talked much about bravery. Is it the warrior? We think of bravery and warriors and battle and out there and physical stuff. Yeah, it can be that. But are we brave enough to say, yes, I will craft my own destiny? I will craft my own destiny. Bravery is the willingness to step out of our comfort zone, step over our fear into that realm of infinite possibility, expansion, growth. That's what bravery's about, is that willingness to step over our fear and move forward anyway. And we do that through building our faith and our trust, not only in ourselves and our skills, our abilities, our gifts, and our talents, but in that anchoring of spirit within us, that source that is within us that's ever present, that ever supports us, it's ever there for us. We build our faith, we build our trust there, and that expands and grows. It expands and grows. And like anything, we must practice. We must practice and build our faith muscle. So today, I'm going to invite you into some practice this week, as we always do. How do I apply this? What's my practice? And first off, I want to start with the question, what would I do today? Not what would I do in some dreamland maybe down the road, but today. Make it today. What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today? I'm going to go through several of these. The first one is, can you have that tough conversation in your relationship? Whether you're just starting dating, whether you've been married for 30 years, whether you've been dating for a while, whatever your situation may be, we know that in relationship, we bump up against each other. It's what relationships are all about, isn't it? Having our own experiences together. And we bump up against each other. And we know there's always opportunities for uncomfortable conversations. Are you willing to have it? The one you've been putting off. The one you know you need to have. The one that may not be as pleasant or as comfortable as you'd like. Be brave. Be prepared. Be brave. Step over the fear. It will expand you. It will expand your partner. It will expand the consciousness on the planet. The second one, are you brave enough to look at your financial picture? Are you brave enough to open your checkbook and really look at where the expenditures are? Your debit card statement, your bank card statement. Look at your charges. Where's your money going? Are you an investor, a hoarder, or a saver? Have you looked at your retirement? Where's your money going? What's your relationship with money? Really look at it so that you know. So that you know, and then, do I need help? Am I okay? Am I where I want to be? Do I need help and support in making some changes? Do I need education? What do I need here? But looking at that, being brave enough to really look into our financial situation. Now, I'm only recommending you pick one of these and one small piece of it, because this is everything, and this is way overwhelming to do it all. But pick one. Just pick one. The next one is, will you look at your job or career? Your job or career, and ask the tough questions there. Does it serve me? Does it bring me joy? Am I a beneficial presence to this place I go every day? Do I bring my love and joy and talents? Do I uplift them? Or am I just tracking time until it's over? Am I appreciated? Are my gifts and skills utilized there? Am I there because I'm afraid to leave? Are we brave enough to ask these questions of ourselves? And what about spirituality? Are you brave enough to question your spirituality? To look at your practice and the principles and the tools of transformation that we teach. Do you use them? Are you walking your talk? Are you using these? Are you brave enough to take the necessary action in order to step into that? To greater self-awareness, to expansion, to see what's there, to go into the void, to go into the gap, and to listen for the divine voice of Spirit. Are you brave enough? And finally, what about health? What about our health? Are we brave enough to make the commitment to the changes in diet, exercise, restful sleep? Are we brave enough to make that commitment to actually doing that, to support this body that is truly the holy temple of the Most High? This is the vehicle that supports our soul while we're on this planet Earth. Are we brave enough to make the commitment to it, to keep it healthy? So those are our practices this week. There's a lot of them. That's a lot. So I say, pick one, maybe one piece of one, and start there. Are you brave enough to step over your fear, to step over the status quo, and be more of who you came here to be? That expression of light, of love, of joy. Play your part in the harmony of life. Play your part. So I want to conclude with a paraphrase of Ernest Holmes. He tells us about the karmic law, and that it is not fate, but cause and effect. We hear about karma, and he says that it's cause and effect. It is a taskmaster to the universe, a servant to the wise. Whatever goes into the subjective state of our thoughts, into our subconscious, tends to return again as some condition. So we and we alone control our destiny. Are you brave enough to accept the challenge? Let's anchor this and affirm it in prayer today. How good it is to come together this morning as Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, as we connect and remember who we are in this oneness and in this wholeness, in recognition of God as all that there is. That one power and presence that is enthroned as all of life. It is harmony. It is that beautiful, beautiful symphony of life unfolding in its unique diversity. It is love and peace and wholeness. And again, all of it is here now present, enthroned as me and enthroned as each one of us gathered here this day as an expression of it, uniquely made manifest as only we can on that individualized basis. So I speak my word for and about each one of us this day, for each one of us that has a dream that is working its way through us, that we can be empowered to step over their fear, step into our bravery, being brave, to take the actions necessary in our life to see it made manifest. For we know that all of Spirit is coming together. Whatever we need is coming our way in support of that dream. And how grateful I am for that. So for anyone that's got anything on their heart this day, we simply lift that into the light and love of Spirit, into the consciousness of this room, into the prayerfulness of each one here, knowing its full and perfect manifestation. So it's in great gratitude, great joy that I release this prayer into the action of law, knowing that it's done, it's so, and we anchor and proclaim it together by affirming, and so it is.